Hey everyone, Dan at Ochiko Bushcraft. We are building a survival lean-to today. Now I just finished the video a little bit ago on how to do square lashing. If you need to learn how to do that, or you just want to see the start of this series and me putting this pole up, watch that video on square lashing. And if you are not familiar with the clove hitch, I have a video up. Just type in Ochiko Bushcraft clove hitch. Those are the two basic knots that we used, the clove hitch and lashing and the square lashing. And that's all we're going to do. Everything else is going to be materials that we find in the woods. So before I get started, what's the difference between a basic lean-to and a survival lean-to? And this is done my way based on my experience out here. Size is a huge difference. If you're building a lean-to because you're out here camping and it's summertime or it's warm and you just want to get out of, maybe it's going to rain a little bit, that's fine. You can build a nice, big, roomy, comfortable lean-to to stretch out under, throw your sleeping bag under. It's January. There's snow around on the hills, and it is supposed to snow up here in the mountains this afternoon. In fact, it could snow quite a bit. So we are doing a survival lean-to. Okay, it's going to be small. That's the first thing. It's not, I chose two trees that are close together to keep this small and compact. Now there's a couple reasons for that. One, the bigger you make your lean-to, the more materials you have to go out and gather. You got to gather more poles. You got to gather more material for your roof. That means more time, and it means more energy expenditure. So remember that. If you make a smaller lean-to, less materials, less time, so your shelter's up quicker, less energy expenditure. You're not going to be out spending near as much time gathering materials. And finally, the smaller the space, the easier it is to keep warm. If you have a big lean-to that has a lot of depth behind you, all that area behind you is going to get cold and it's going to store cold air. A small space, your body heat will help to keep it warm, and a fire out in front, that heat will get trapped in that small space and it will stay much warmer. Finally, this is lean-to done my way. Most survival books, Boy Scout manuals, etc., when you do a lean-to, and they have you put your cross beam up and then lean your poles this way, like so, so that these trees are bracing. Now, if you don't have cordage or you don't have good cordage, then that's pretty much what you're going to have to do. But if you've got good, strong cordage, the better option is to actually put your poles up on this side, because this is strong cordage, okay? It's not going to go anywhere with the weight of the shelter. That weight of the shelter is not going to weigh anywhere near what I weigh. Well, here's the advantage. Here's why. Because when you put your cross beam on the outside of the tree, so my shelter's going back this way, the tree becomes a wall inside the shelter. So I actually have a solid wall behind my back that is part of the shelter. If my cross beam was back here, I could build an extended roof out, but then I still have a greater open area on the sides. I'm going to have less area to fill in on the sides because the trees are inside the shelter, giving me part of a wall already. So again, less energy expenditure, less materials I'm going to need, and I got this nice leaning post to lean back against with a fire right out here. So that is survival lean-to done my way. Okay, I've got quite a bit of materials, but I wanted to get you guys with me to get the rest of them. So let's pause and move. Okay, need another pole. So, using my Silky Pocket Boy Outback Edition, I got a pole here, another pole for the roof. Probably right around here somewhere to be about the right length. So there we go. That'll be our last pole for the back section of the lean-to. Okay. Now some of these I'm going to leave on because it helps when you're putting crossbars or laying limbs and branches or whatever across the top. It helps catch it. But on one side, I'm going to take them off because I don't want them poking down onto me. So I'm going to choose one side here to get rid of them. Smooth those off. And one more here. There we go. All right. So we got our poles. Let's haul that back. I don't know what the deal is, but over the past month, since Christmas, every single area that I've gone to out here, I have found Christmas trees that people cut down and then just left lay. And I think a lot of people, they cut one down and then after they cut it down, they decide they don't want it and then they go cut another. This area had a couple of them just left laying here. So I took advantage of them and I drug them over here so you guys could watch me. But we're going to use fir boughs as roofing material for this lean-to. By the way, Grants Force Brook hatchet, best hatchet I've ever used, highly recommended. Bushcraft, knife, saw, the three essential tools of every bushcraft kit. Just about got it. A couple more here. That'll work. All right, let's haul all of these over here to the shelter. Okay, I've drug all my materials over here to get started. I've got my poles, which we're gonna go put up. I've got my roofing. I showed you on the poles, I got one side delimbed, the side that's gonna be over my body so I don't get poked. And the other side, I've left limbs sticking up to help catch the boughs. Now, because I'm using fir boughs, big long fir boughs, I don't need any cross sections on this. If you're using pine needles or leaves, then I'm gonna need to lay poles crossways and probably weave some. So maybe get some long green branches that will bend and weave them. I don't need to do that, but when I go back here and start, I'll do a couple just to show you what I'm talking about. So let's begin. Okay, so again, I don't need it on the fir boughs, but just to show you guys, I laid a cross beam across, and it's laying on top of those sticks, those branches that are poking up on the other side, so it can't go anywhere. So I don't need to use any more cordage to lash it. The other thing that you can do, and I'll do a couple for you to show you, is taking some green limbs and weaving. I'm not going to delimb any of my fir boughs, but I will weave one through to show you. Okay, in the event that I needed to make like a lattice work, because all I've got is leaves and pine needles, and I could take green branches like that, weave some through this way, and then weave some through the other way. So that way, by weaving and weaving, you have a lattice work that leaves and pine needles, grasses, whatever small things that you have to work with will not fall through. Again, the cool thing about the fir boughs is I don't even need that. I can just start heaping them on there. Now, before I go any farther, I got one more thing I want to do. There was an old rotten log, and I used it as a base in the back, so it's going to keep everything real secure. It's going to help hold all of the roofing and other materials in place, and will just prevent air from coming underneath. So let's throw the rest of that roof on. Now that right there is a very, very good start. And one more armload of the fir boughs and the roof will be fantastic. Now, if it were going to rain, I would probably start putting on some pine needles and smaller stuff, maybe some sheets of bark to hold that in place so the rain would come off. But we're below freezing out here, so it's gonna snow, and that snow is just going to build up on top of those fir boughs and insulate the inside even more. It'll cut off any drafts, any small holes of the air going up through the ceiling. The snow will just cut them off and insulate it. But this is what I was talking about. Survival lean-to. You know, it's very compact, but I got room to stretch out, lean up against a tree, take a little nap. Remember, fire in front, the heat from the flames, and the flames are heating my body up right here, and the heat coming off my body as it gets warm is going to fill this small area. I've only got a small area to heat. The roof is steep, by the way. I forgot to mention that at the beginning, but the roof is nice and steep. That helps make the roof stronger, helps moisture run off of the roof, and helps make the area back here behind me smaller so that it's easier to heat. So that is the beginning of our survival lean-to. Now what we need to do is we need to put some more roofing on, and then we need to do up the sides. So let me pause you guys and grab a few limbs and branches for one of the sides here, show you how we're going to do it. Okay, let's do a walk around here. This is going to be our stopping point for today. I want to break this up into sections, so when we come back next time, we'll fill in the two little walls on the side and maybe get started on putting a fire out in the front. Go from there, see what we got. And then of course, we need something down on the inside. Now I have my insulated ground pad that I carry on the bottom of my pack, so I'll probably just throw a few fir boughs in the bottom with that on top. If you don't have any kind of a pad, then you're going to need a good at least 12, 15 inches of fir boughs on the bottom of this to insulate you from the cold ground. So you can see there's still plenty of snow on the hill, and it is supposed to snow this afternoon. All right, here's my roof. I got some fir boughs hanging over the top. There's my area. Remember, that tree gives me a wall. I have a very rock solid wall to lean up against that's going to help block the wind. And this is what the back looks like. You can see how steep that roof is. I threw that rotten log down at the base, and that's now under the boughs. So this is my view from the back. Again, like I said, I'm going to throw about one more armload on top of the back and get it nice and thickly insulated. And then, now for the side, I only did one side here, but I want to show you, I just leaned up a bunch of poles along this side. And because of them being almost straight up and down, I will weave a few fir boughs between those poles to hold the other fir boughs in place that I pile on top, and I'll just kind of tuck and weave. This gives me a little area to stretch my feet out, and then I'll have another one over here, do the same thing over there. So one side will be a place to keep some dry firewood, and the other side will be a place to just extend my body a little bit. Okay, I want you guys to see what I'm talking about here. So when I sit down inside here, lean up against my nice solid wall, this little wall that I've got curving out gives me room to put my legs out and stretch out. Also, I have room to lay down here now. Make a little pillow or something right here. And I've got room to get my body down in here. And again, I don't want a big long lean-to that I can stretch out in. That's a lot more space that I would have to heat and more materials that I would have to gather. So again, taking advantage of the tree and putting my cross pole on the outside. My trees are inside the shelter, giving me a nice wall behind me, a small wall here. This little extended area here, my legs to stretch out in. And then there'll be another one behind me right here that I will be able to put up a nice row of firewood, which will actually help insulate this wall, because there'll be firewood piled up right here. And then I just reach behind me and toss it out in front for a fire. So there it is, guys, the beginning of our survival lean-to. Now, if the storm comes and I'm out here still, I got a roof over my head. The snow's not going to get through that. It's just going to pile up on the top, and it's going to insulate even more. And it's going to take me a whole 2 to 3 minutes to block off this other side and throw up a couple poles behind me and throw a few more boughs there, and then have shelter on 3 sides. So all I need to do is get a small fire going out front, just enough to throw heat in here. Again, the heat heats up my body. It also casts some heat in here, but because my body gets hot and I'm in such a small area, my own body heat will heat up this small area when it's insulated that's coming off me from the fire hitting me. And this area around here, very small, will hold the heat from the fire. And I've done these before in much worse conditions than this, and they have worked fantastic. So you can turn a lean-to, which normally is more of a warm weather shelter, into a cold weather survival shelter by keeping it small, compact, really throwing on the insulation, and getting yourself a small fire going in front to throw the heat in. Dan at Ochako Bushcraft. Stay tuned, guys, because we are going to come back and we are going to finish this up and add fire.